The film 12 Angry Men was released in 1957 and takes place in a sweaty and claustrophobic jury room where 12 men are deciding the fate of a young boy who was accused of murdering his father. The film takes place in a single room and there are 12 jurors who serve to represent the American public. The film begins with showing the severe lack of air conditioning and describing how hot it is. Later, when it started raining and one of the jurors found a fan, it shows how they're clearing the air and coming clear on their thoughts. Now the jury, led by an individual named Juror 8, split into two sides, with jurors willing to convict the boy and jurors standing firm against the verdict. In the film, this man must determine whether to convict a young man of murder based on circumstantial evidence and reasonable doubt. Throughout the course of the film, each juror has their own opinion regarding what should happen with this case. Some believe the defendant is guilty while others feel he's innocent. Our own personal view will be represented by one of these 12 characters in the film. It is seen as one of cinema's most famous examples of suspenseful storytelling. Each side represents their own arguments and evidence to support their position. The characters in the movie represent different racial and social backgrounds, but they must come together to decide. They take turns talking and each share their thoughts on the case, from whether the boy could have been involved to the likelihood of him being facially accused. The thematic summary of the film's central themes would depend on who you ask, but for some, it will be about how decisions can have long-lasting consequences. Other things say that it highlights how decisions are not black and white, no matter what they say. One thing is certain, 12 Angry Men is a classic example of dramatic irony. Dramatic irony occurs when something happens, or someone says something which seems contradictory to your expectations. The movie depicts many themes that can be interpreted in many ways. One theme that I believe is portrayed well throughout the movie is justice. Justice is a very important concept for people who are involved in law enforcement or any other field where they must take decisions about what should happen to someone else. In this case, the jury must decide whether an innocent man will go free. Another theme that is shown is the idea of being fair. This film shows that even though we may think something is right, it also shows that people can be swayed by emotion rather than logic. There has been so many witnesses who claim to know something about what happened, but no one can agree among themselves as to how things really went down, something that happened with the witness that the trial had. 12 Angry Men also explore themes such as justice. For example, how does justice decide if someone deserves punishment? Is it fair that some people get away with crimes when others do not? What happens when a jury cannot reach an unanimous decision? It's something really interesting. How does society decide if someone deserves punishment? Society decides if someone deserves punishment while weighing the severity of their crime, the evidence presented against them, and the opportunity to be innocent. The movie 12 Angry Men is a classic example of this idea in practice, based on a jury deliberating whether the defendant killed his father or not. In the end, they all agree he did not kill him, but only after much debate of what constitutes murder. Now, after hours of intense deliberation, they finally reach a verdict, but most jurors vote in favor of denying him. It's not possible for us to come to any conclusion regarding our lives or those around us until we have heard from everyone involved. We need to be open-minded enough to listen to others' opinion as well as our own. It's a really big theme in the film. In the film, there are many lessons learned from watching these jurors deliberate on this case. Now, many think that jurors have no responsibility towards the outcome of a trial, but it's quite the opposite. Jurors have an obligation to be fair and impartial in the decision, as well as keep an open minded during testimonies. And it teaches that we really need to listen and understand what people we interact with because we don't know what they're going through. Their opinions might be correct or incorrect. It's not possible for us to come to any conclusion regarding our own lives or those around us until we have heard from everyone involved. We need to be open-minded enough to listen to others' opinions as well as our own. This is a movie that showcases the true power of persuasive argument. The movie's central theme can be summarized in one statement. If you're trying to convince someone to think differently, you must do it in a way that they will be persuaded by. You cannot force your opinion on them or argue with them. Rather, you must provide valid points and good examples. This is a perfect example of Juror 8 that he just did this. This is what makes this film so powerful. We'll see how each juror has their own opinions about the case, but when presented with evidence from both sides, they all come together as one unit for justice. In order to achieve this unity, however, there have been to be some persuasion involved. Some people believe that the moral of the film is to always listen to someone whose voice and opinion are opposite to what you believe. It's about considering opinions from all people. This can help us understand one another better and develop a sense of understanding for others. The 12 jurors, each with different backgrounds and opinions on life, are transformed by a great responsibility and a powerful force of conviction. In this film, we observe the process in which the jurors come to the true conclusion to their case. At the beginning of the film, the jurors at first completely disagree with one another and their opinions clash, but they slowly start to come together and realize that there might be more than meets the eye. They eventually decide on a verdict based upon what evidence has been presented and not just because someone says so. It's a great example of how people can change their minds when given enough time and information. Underneath this story, there's an underlying message that is conveyed through the words and actions of each character. One that says that any individual can be more than what society expects them to be. The film theme is the power of one. It shows that even although all 12 jurors are different from one another, they can change their minds when faced with new evidence and information. The film culminates to an ending which all 12 jurors decide that the boy was not guilty. It illustrates how even when there's strong disagreement amongst people, they're still able to come to an agreement if they're willing to listen to each other's opinions. This metaphor can be applied to any situation where you have different ideas or belief on something. You may think your idea is right, but it could just be easily wrong. The movie also shows what happens when we don't listen to others' opinions. In this case, the boy could end up being executed for murder if jurors do not listen to anyone else's opinion about whether he should go free or die. 12 Angry Men is a beautiful story about characters coming together and will deciding the fate of one man. My name is Christian from Beyond Premiere, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye, everyone.